Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar number 84, when and which site to castle. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar number. Please let me know if everything works properly or we need to adjust something. Please let me know if everything works properly. You can send a text message if everything is okay or not. You can send a text message if everything is okay or not. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm streaming this webinar on Twitch as well as on YouTube. So please let me know if you can successfully connect and you can see. On Twitch. Can you please type anything on Twitch in the chat here? If you can successfully connect and you can see. Okay, thanks. Everything okay, waiting for a session to begin. Yeah, we are about to start in a few minutes. Okay, guys, thank you for joining. It was difficult because it's not on Click Meetings. We are going to conduct webinars on Twitch, and I believe more people will join us soon. I decided to change the platform because I didn't like the way how Click Meeting work, and I believe I can broadcast to more attendees on Twitch. Okay, fine. And I believe I can broadcast to more attendees on Twitch. Okay, fine. My voice is too low. Just a sec. Let me check my microphone settings. No, they say that my microphone is good. Let me check my microphone. What about settings now? Did anything change? No, they say that my microphone is good. Let me check my microphone. What about settings now? Did anything change? No, they say that my microphone is good. Let me check my microphone. What about settings now? Did anything change? No, they say that my microphone is good. Let me check my microphone. What about settings now? Did anything change? No, they say that my microphone is good. Mm-hmm. Let me check my microphone. What about settings now? Did anything change? No, they say that my microphone is good. Mm-hmm. Let me check my microphone. What about settings now? Did anything change? No, they say that my microphone is good. Mm-hmm. Okay. Check my microphone. What about settings now? Did anything change? No, they say that my microphone. Okay, I believe now it will be much better. Okay, now it shouldn't be repeating. Just tell me if it doesn't. Tell me if everything is okay, because yeah, it's nice. And okay, perfect. So we have actually only 5 attendees, and 4 people are watching me on YouTube. So guys, for YouTube guys, I just want you to enter my so this is my Twitch account. Please join. What are we going to do first? Okay, while we are waiting for more attendees to come, Let me first show my chess.com profile so you can send me a friend request. If you want. The other thing that I suggest you doing is this group. It's our educational group, Tricks of Chess. So please join. If so, you will be able to watch all the recordings of our previous webinars. Not all of them, but they are available after the webinar, no, the day after, and maybe 2 days after even. Finally, my YouTube channel. So I will be streaming these webinars here, so please find these links. And finally, my website. If you are looking for chess coach or for chess courses, you can join there. So you can ask about coaching. Actually, I created 2 products which are training programs for 3 months and 6 months. This is where I create a training plan that you should follow, and this is how you improve after that. What else? Online courses as well. So if you're looking how to improve in tactics or openings, you can enroll into one of these 2 courses. Okay, fine. Let's now go back to Lichess. I'm conducting, okay, instead of chess-based, I'm using Lichess today. So today we're going to talk about how and which side to castle and what to do if your opponents didn't castle in time. How to take the advantage of it, that's the question. So what are we going to do? First of all, we are going to analyze the game between Konstantin Sakaev and Dmitry Lavrik. And then I also prepared 2 other games. It was the game between Mikhail Tal against Geza Fuster and Efim Geller against Andrzej Filipovich. What I want you to understand, when you are castle to the opposite side, for example, your plan should be to initiate the attack on the enemy king. It's very often when you just advance your pawns, you initiate a pawn march, and you are faster than your opponent, so your attack is strong, and this is where you succeed. It can often happen in Yugoslav attack of dragon variation. For example, let's create a new chapter. So e4 c5, knight f3, d6 d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, then g6, bishop a3, bishop goes there, f3, castle, queen d2, knight c6. Then there are a lot of moves for white. No, 3. So this move, this move, bishop. Okay, for some reason you don't see my arrows. It's weird. So bishop c4. Okay, but g4, the one that I recommend. So here bishop e6 can be played, or just knight takes d4. If something like bishop d7, you can castle queenside, and then your attack h4 h5 will be much stronger. Yeah, you can see the circles, but for some reason I can't do the arrows, which is weird because I was sure that I can. Hmm. Hmm. I just don't understand it. Okay, so this is where you can advance your pawns h4, h5 and be much faster than your opponent. So in such a case, castling to the queen side definitely makes sense. So in other words, I want to say that if you believe that your pawn march on the enemy king will be faster than your opponent's enemy pawn march, then you should castle to the opposite side. What else? The other thing when you should castle to the queen side is when you are going to when you're, for example, if it's the end game like that, d6 you take, then let's say they play knight c6, you take, they capture, you trade the queens, they take with the king, otherwise they lose the central pawn, you play knight c3, for example, knight f6 or bishop e3, doesn't really matter. So bishop e6, let's say here you castle to the queen side. Why? Because you immediately get the rook to the open file, and the king on c1 is closer to the king's to the center. And here you also deliver a check. So it makes sense when you want to activate the rook to the d file immediately, and you are sure that after that you'll take the advantage of your better position, or in case if you think that the king should be closer to the center. Castle king side in such a position will be more a mistake. Okay, so we are going to analyze the game between Sakaev and Lavrik, and I'm going to show you why, how to take the advantage of a delay in castling. d4, d5, knight f3, knight f6, c4, c6. So it was Slav defense. e3, quite a typical move. Bishop f5, this is what I play. a6, this line is called Chebanenko variation. Knight c3, b5, that was the idea of a6 move. b3, supporting it. Bishop g4. In this position, the most common move is h3, but after this trade and e5, sacrificing the pawn, there is no advantage for white. Bishop goes to b4, but after b takes c4, no, let's say b takes c4, queen b6, the white is not better. Queen b2 gains the pawn back, so black pieces activity compensates an extra pawn and a bishop pair for white. That's why here Sakaev decided not to play h3, but he plays bishop to d2 move. So the idea of such a move is that we prevent bishop b4. e6 was played. Now h3 they take. Now e5 of course doesn't make sense. It will be a tempo loss. Knight bd7 is played. Bishop d3. Bishop b4 finally. And white castles. What do you think black should do in this position? Any ideas? Or just any suggestion? What do you think? What would you play if you were black? Make the queen active? Actually, this is what black played, and that was a kind of a mistake. What else can you suggest? Castle, exactly. So black castles, and white has only just a small advantage. But instead of doing it, queen e7 was played, which is a mistake. Can you please explain why queen e7 is a mistake in this position? Any ideas? The problem with the queen move, it's they just didn't connect the rook. Black should somehow connect them. That's the main problem. And actually the queen is no longer protecting the rook on a8. While the queen is on d8, it could protect on e8. Okay, I'll show you. So here, white realizes that the rook on e8 is the object of the attack through this diagonal. And they immediately take. Now, if for example e takes d5, then the c pawn becomes the object of the attack. For example, a3, bishop takes c3, then a5, and the pawn on c6 is a huge weakness here. If for example instead they capture the pawn, then we are developed much better, and we should open the center. Castle, for example, then bishop g5 with some pressure, bishop b4 and knight f6, and finally here we may take, or we may just go back. We'll take the advantage of their weakness on c6 and maybe on f6 as well. Actually, queen f5 is the next move. Okay. If knight takes on d5, it's a good question. Then anyway, a3. If now they decide to take on c3 with the bishop, we take with our bishop, knight takes, and queen c6 is a double attack. So we gain the pawn and the piece back. If bishop a3 in this position, then knight d5, c takes d5, and again e4 with similar ideas. The b5 is hanging, we open the position in the center, so white is much better here. Okay, let's go back. That's why c takes d5 was played. How would you play in this position? How to take the advantage of better development and the fact that the rook on e8 is not protected? What would you play? Okay, any suggestions? Okay, let me show you. It's just a for move. What's the idea of this move? This is how we are threatening to take on b5. So guys, I fixed the problem with the arrows. Everything should be fine now. So what we want to take on the next move, regardless of what is played. That's why the only thing that they can do is to capture with the pawn on a4, then rook captures. So the a6 and the bishop maybe 2 is the object of the attack. a5. And how to continue for white in this position? Maybe you'll find now. Pin the knight using the bishop. What do you mean? Bishop b5, probably. This is your idea. Bishop b5, then maybe castle. What else? Rook ac1. Wait, rook fc1. It's the only rook. Knight b5 can be played, but then castle anyway. Okay, no guys, it's just knight takes d5. What's the idea of such a move? If now they capture with the knight, we take on b4, and the pawn is pinned. If the knight takes, then they lose the a8 rook. So they probably have to play with the queen to d8, but after bishop d6 our position is strategically winning. That's why here they can also try taking with the pawn, which actually happened in the game. Bishop b4 anyway, so if queen takes b4 they just lose the queen. If pawn takes, then rook captures and they lose everything, not only the rook. Queen d8 in this position, but now white is completely winning with one extra pawn threatening to take the other one. Rook f a e1, queen b6, queen retreats to d1 to protect on b3, rook b8, bishop a5, queen b3, bishop c2, the queen retreats, and after rook b1 we trade the other rook, the most active rook. Knight takes b8, and after bishop b4 black resigned. Who can tell me why? Why did black decide to resign in this position? Oh, it's definitely because of the weak king. Black cannot castle and the king is in the center. Yeah, but the main factor is that the rook cannot join the game, actually. So, for example, I'll make a few moves. Knight c6, bishop c5, knight d7, bishop f5, pinning from that way, g6, just take. Rook e8, knight blocks, and then just queen b1 and queen b6. So we are threatening to play this move, attack the rook, and then bishop b6 to put more pressure on d8. If king f7, then just rook a7 and that's it. So one of the problems why castling is important in time is not because it provides that player with the king safety, but it also allows them to join the rook to the center or just anywhere to the game. In this game it didn't happen. That's why white was completely winning. So I believe the critical mistake of this position was the moment where queen e7 was played. Instead of doing it, they could just castle. But probably they underestimated the position and decided that queen e7 shouldn't be a bad move while the position is closed. However, they just overlooked the opportunity of white to take on d5 and then open the position with a4 move. That was the main mistake that black did. No, actually, you see, it's move number 12 and black didn't castle. What do I usually recommend? I recommend you castling before in the first 10 moves. If not, then in the first 12. Here it didn't happen. Okay, fine. If you have any questions about this position, just let me know. Okay, let's continue. Now I would like to show you the second game, the game played by Mikhail Tal. No, actually, his games are quite beautiful because there he has tons of different combinations, and sometimes he sacrifices the pieces by intuition. E4 c6, d4 d5, knight c3. This is one of the possible lines of playing against Caro-Kann. E takes d5, c takes d5, bishop d3 is probably the most simple one. However, I prefer playing e5. I have a lot of experience playing there. Knight c3 is another move that is popular on grandmaster's level. They take on e4, knight e4, and here bishop f5 is most popular. Knight g3, bishop g6, h4, h6, knight f3, knight f6, h5, chasing the bishop, then trading the bishop on d3. And white grabbed some space, but actually black has no weaknesses in their position. That's why this opening is playable. However, in this position, black decided to choose another line. This is the second popular move, knight d7, with the intention to play knight gf6 and to trade the knight in the center. White played queen e2. White could play queen e2, but no, it didn't happen in the position. So one of the traps in this position is queen e2. If now knight gf6, automatically it's just knight d6 and the game is over. Smothered mate. Once it happened in the game of Magnus Carlsen, he was black. I believe he did a pre-move and blundered it. But the best move is this in this position. However, it's still fine. For example, c3 can be played, and then knight e4, queen e4, knight f6, queen retreats to c2, and the position is still playable for both. But of course, knight f3 is considered to be stronger than queen e2. That's why Tal continued with knight f3. Knight f6, we have two options to take or retreat. Takes, and then knight e5, bishop c4. This is the main plan. Bishop c4 was played, bishop f5, queen e2. Can you please tell me the idea of queen e2 move? Protecting the king? What do you mean? Do we really need to cover the e-file? Looks like nobody is attacking the king through the e-file. If you want to protect the king, you'd better castle. No, actually, the idea of such a move is to castle queenside. e6, bishop g5, bishop e7, and white castle to the queen side. This move, of course, makes sense. It's one of the common plans with the intention to play h3, g4, then h4, h5, and so on to weaken their king side, but it's not the best strategy, and if black knows how to play properly, they'll definitely are able to equalize the position at least. So for example, they could play maybe bishop g4 or just b5, chasing the bishop, then trade and castle king side with the intention to attack on the queen side. And I'm not sure if they are faster than white, but it's definitely a position with equal chances for both sides. H6 was played instead. H6 is a good move as well. Bishop h4. And now black decided to simplify the position. They played knight e4, which wasn't a good move. Instead, they'd better play knight to d5. Let me explain why knight d5 is better. So first of all, bishop takes e7, queen takes e7. Then let's say knight e5 with the intention of the kingside attack, but black can castle. And of course g4, h4, then g5. White maybe just slightly better, or maybe even not. But the main idea is that if bishop g3 is played, this bishop blocks pawn's activity. Now it doesn't make sense to do g4. I mean, it does make sense, but it's almost impossible. White has to spend another tempo. Probably they have to do like that. So it's 3 tempos to activate the g pawn to attack the bishop. That's why 95 looks better than 94. Because after 94, white can activate the pawn immediately. What's the idea of such a move? So of course it's obvious that after bishop g4, queen takes e4. But what if bishop h4? How would you play in such a case? So what do you think? Okay, the idea is that after bishop takes h4, g takes f5. Now the knight is hanging. If this knight retreats, we can just take there and maybe there. If knight f2, which looks like a better option because this is how they create a fork, we can take on e6, let them capture one of the rooks, but then we are absolutely winning without the exchange. So they have to play this move to prevent us from doing knight e5, but then just rook e1. Rook e1, and with such a strong pawn on f7, we definitely win the game. This rook is unable to join the game quickly, and I believe knight e5, and even if they take, we can push the pawn to e6 and get a better position. But maybe we should keep the knight for something more helpful. Now this position is winning. That's why instead of taking on h4, black played bishop h7. Bishop g3, one of the best options. The other possible move is bishop e7. Queen e7, then bishop d3, knight goes to f6, bishop h7, knight takes h7, and after knight e5, white is much better. So for example, if they castle king side, we can initiate the king side attack. If they castle to the queen side, which looks better, then still h4 with the intention of playing g5 in future provides white with more space. f7 is a weakness, by the way. But in the game it was played bishop g3. Now when the pawn is already on g4, it makes sense to get the bishop behind it, because we can continue our pawn march in case if black castles to the king side. But we offer a trade of our bishop for a knight. Is it okay in this position or not? I would say yes, because the bishop on g3 is not doing much, and the bishop on e7 is not better than, for example, this knight. That's why we may allow ourselves to let him take on g3. Taking with the h pawn is the most natural move, but Mikhail Tal decides to take with the f pawn. Who can tell me what was his idea behind f takes g3? Okay guys, I just want you to understand that I'm reading all the commands here on Twitch and YouTube as well, so just try to tell me why f takes g3. Why did he decide to take with the f pawn? No, it's closer to the site. I just don't understand your command, but the idea was to open the F file. Why do we need the F file to be open? What's the goal? Okay, now the idea is to attack f7. f7 here is the weakness. So f takes g3, queen c7. Knight e5, putting more pressure on f7. So here bishop f6 I believe is a better move because it closes the f file. But bishop d6 was played. h4. The idea of bishop d6 was that black can just play f6. Sorry, the idea of bishop d6 was that black wants to play f6, and their idea was that the knight now retreats. Let's say knight retreats to f3, after which they can castle queenside. Bishop e6 doesn't, black doesn't care about it. King b8, and then let's say queen g2 to unpin, but the pawn is hanging. So it was the exchange of the e6 pawn to the g3 pawn, and actually black is fine with it, because at least they castled, finished their pieces development, and exchanged their weak pawn. If knight f3 or knight d3, black is more than happy with it, That was their original decision of playing bishop d6. But actually they missed something. What did you think Mikhail Tal played in this position? So what do you think? What can we play instead of replacing our knight from e5 to f3? Okay, fine, let me explain. So the idea now, we can, instead of moving the knight, we can just take on e6 and sacrifice the knight. This is what Mikhail Tal's like to do in his games. F takes e5, d takes e5. So taking here is a critical mistake, I believe, because of at least rook h e1, or maybe actually this move is even better. Queen b8, then rook e1 now. If they retreat, we can just play this move. Now let's say bishop f6. Then then queen d2 is fine. We just play this and rook f7. So should be a winning position. That's why here bishop e7 to cover the king. Rook d7 still looks good, but after rook d7, queen takes d7, bishop d7, king d7 e6, king goes to c8, and I'm not sure if this position is winning. It should be because of white pieces activity, but materially white has no advantage. That's why here white decides to join the last resource, the reserve. The rook comes to the f file. So rook f8, rook takes f8, bishop takes f8. Now queen f3. Something like rook d8, for example, in this position doesn't work. We just take, and after queen takes, we can checkmate on f7 with our queen. If rook d8, if first rook d8, rook takes d8, then king takes d8, then the bishop is hanging with a checkmate. What to do? Looks like black struggles with the plan and even with the move, so they played these. Here the best option, I believe, was bishop d7, forcing them to sacrifice the queen, and this position is winning. The king goes to d6, then just maybe c4 or queen g7 is fine. And with 3 extra pawns it should be winning. But they played queen b3. which I also consider a good move. What's the idea of this move? The idea is to play rook d7, queen takes d7, bishop takes, king takes, and finally queen takes b7. The position is winning because the rook is hanging. So that's why rook b8. However, it's still a blunder because we can play bishop d7, trade our rook and bishop for a queen, and then play queen f7. Now they can't move the king to the 6th rank, they have to move it to the back rank or block with bishop e7. e6, check. If he goes to d6, he blunders the rook. That's why he goes to the back rank. And after queen g7, we just can't find a good spot for this bishop. And this is how white gets a better position, a material advantage, and of course with so many pawns winning the game. Well, if bishop e4, just queen e5 is enough. This is double attack and the game is over. So what happened in this position? You see, instead of castling or playing bishop f6 and then castling to the queen side, black played bishop d6 and then f6 was played, which weakened their position. They just underestimated bishop takes e6 move, but they should. How should they realize that it was time to castling and playing like bishop d6 and f6, which is too slow, doesn't work? They should just understand that the position is in white favor. That's why any tactics, or almost any tactics, will be in white favor. Okay, do you have any questions about this game? Don't hesitate to ask me any questions. So because we are using Twitch and YouTube today, the number of participants is quite low. However, I believe the number will increase soon. I mean, for the next webinar at least. Okay, what should black do if no tactics will... they should make slow moves that improves their position and solves their main problems. For example, bishop f6, then h4, castle queen side maybe, or rook d8, or b5. b5, then bishop retreats. No, b5, then knight f7 looks good. So probably rook d8 is a better move. Then what? Rook e1, then castle. They should play like that, just improve their position, doing only positionally moves. But in such a case, if their position is worse, and there should be at least any tactical motives in the position. For example, a weak king on the queen side, or maybe some pieces were located quite bad, like for example the queen was trapped in the corner. If so, there could be tactics possibilities, but looks like here white doesn't experience any problems. So that's why instead of looking for tactical solutions, black would better try to improve their pieces and castle as quick as they can. So what is most essential when you want to attack the king in the middle. It's yes, you should open the lines in the center. You should open the center by initiating a pawn trade. If not, then sometimes it makes sense to sacrifice a piece to open the files. For example, I've already conducted the webinars, and it was the webinar where we were talking about how to take a lead in development. And there was the game by Mikhail Tal. He was playing with white, and he sacrificed the piece on the knight on f5, getting rid of the e6 pawn and opening the position there. It's not a common solution for such positions. If you are unable to calculate the sacrifice properly, you shouldn't sacrifice pieces. But trading pawns in the center to open the lines is the best thing you can do. Any other questions? Okay, if there are no questions, let's continue. Okay. Okay, yeah, there is a good question. Let's say the opponent castle blindly. What should we do? What do you mean by saying blindly? So he just castles and doesn't think about the consequences of his castling. If so, you should understand what's changing the position. Can the king on that side become the object of the attack? If yes, let's initiate the attack. But I want you to understand that you should attack only when the center is stable. If it's not, and you see that your opponent can get a counterplay in the center, then you should do something else and maybe first fix the position in the center and then be looking for a kingside attack. Any other? Or we can continue with the game. The next game that I'm going to present is the game between Efim Geller and Andrej Filipovic from Yugoslavia. e4, c5, knight f3, e6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, and d6. Scheveningen structure. Bishop e2, bishop e7, white castles, a6, f4, queen c7, king h1, and knight c6. This position is quite popular. It happens in many different openings, especially in Kan Sicilian, Paulsen Sicilian, Nidar variation. But as for Kan Sicilian, instead of playing knight c6, here I usually castle. They play bishop e3, and then I decide what to play, either knight c6, b5, no, yeah, just any of these two moves. Knight c6 or b5. Here knight c6 was played instead of castling. It's still playable, but I think that was already inaccuracy. They would better castle. Bishop e3, bishop d7, a4. And what do you think what black should do? Okay, of course, in such position, it's time to castle for black. This is what they should do. This is how they finish their development. Then probably rook c8 and something like that. Knight a5, knight c4, and so on. That should be the plan. Instead, they played rook c8 immediately. Knight b3. Why knight b3 is played in such positions? It's very common when black captures on d4 and then plays e5 to simplify. Or knight takes, bishop takes, and bishop c6, and then e5. So that's why retreating with the knight to b3 doesn't allow black to play e5 immediately, because e5, f5 probably. It's not a move with a tempo while there is no piece on d4. Also, something like knight a5, for example, will be a mistake. What do you think white can do instead of, no, after knight a5? Okay, white should open their file in this position. Okay, maybe, but how? Playing e5 or what? So yeah, e5 should be played in this position. Why e5? Now this move becomes really strong, because if they take, we take, and queen takes e5. After bishop f4, it's difficult to find any good spot for the queen. For example, queen f5, we can play either bishop c7 or just bishop d3. They have to play with the queen to g4, and their knight on a5 won't be protected by anything. If they instead capture on b3, then we take there, they take our rook, we take on e7, and the knight is trapped. So if knight d5, then knight takes knight, it takes d5, and this position should be better for white. Bishop g4, offering a trade and potentially attacking the g7. Knight a5 doesn't work, so knight b4 was played. a5 to get the control over b6, bishop c6, attacking the pawn on e4, bishop f3, protecting it, e5. Now this move is played, but without a temper, so I'm sure that this move wasn't obligatory in this position. Instead, they could still castle and get approximately equal position with which is definitely playable. But e5, they wanted to simplify and castle then. From time to time, I also do like that. I delay castling with the idea to spend the tempo on something more useful. So I would like to achieve something first and then do castling successfully, but in this position I would definitely castle. It's too risky, and later you will realize why. F takes e5, d takes e5, bishop b6 of course. Queen b8 was a better option, and this move could still offer good chances for black to equalize, but queen d6 was played in the game. Of course, we don't trade, we should play queen e2 to make the queen the object of the attack. And again, the best option for black in this position was to castle, but they played queen e6. So they lost their last possibility to castle. What do you think we should do to take the advantage of our position? Please suggest the moves. Knight c5 attacking the queen. Okay. Okay, guys, you are actually right. Knight c5 attacking the queen. Why? No, our idea is to trade to be able to control the f8 square so that they can't castle anymore. So in this position they took. However, it was not the best option. A better move was bishop b5, knight e6, bishop takes e2, but knight takes g7, and after king f8 we are a pawn up. Sorry, c3, knight g3, and we are a pawn up. If they take on b2, I think knight f5, bishop e3, and bishop h6 is too risky. Too dangerous for black. They took. Bishop takes c5. Now bishop b5 is not so good because we can just play queen f2. And if now they capture on f1, yeah, we are down the exchange. But what do you think we should do? Two pieces are hanging. Which one to take? What do you think? The knight? Yeah, definitely the knight. Why? Because we still prevent them from castling. First, they have to spend the tempo. And moreover, if we took on f1 with our rook, then knight c2. The knight escapes. So if queen takes, then we no longer protect on c5. But if we don't take, then they do knight d4, getting rid of our bishop. So bishop takes b4, bishop c4, b3, bishop b5, knight takes b5, a takes b5, and bishop e2, attacking the pawn on b5. So they can't castle. And the problem is not, however, it's a kind of a problem that the king is weak. But the main factor is that this rook can't join the game, so white is effectively a bishop up. And with the bishop pair, it's completely winning position, regardless of how many pieces are stuck on the king side. Knight e4. If, for example, instead of this move they play this, with the intention to protect, then queen g3 was winning. But knight a4 was in the game. Bishop b5, king d8, queen a7 to prevent the king from escaping, queen d5, queen b6 check, rook c7, and here at the final resource we play a6. With the idea to join the last piece to the attack. Of course, we shouldn't blunder this check. So a6, b takes a6, queen b8, rook c8, and queen a7, threatening with a mate. They play rook c7, bishop a5, pinning it. So if they take here, we take there, and then maybe take the other rook as well. A takes b5, queen c7, king e8, bishop b4 threatening a mate. Knight f2 is not doing anything, because then even if they play knight h3 we can just play king f1 and no checks are available. So in this position black resigned because they can't stop neither rook a8 and queen e7 simultaneously. They can only defend against one check, but the other one will be checkmate. So here what was the problem of black? They didn't castle in time. And instead we played knight c5 and forced the trade of this bishop for a knight so that we prevent their king from castling. After that we can even sacrifice the exchange on f1, but to prevent the king from castling, this is how we will be a piece up, while the rook on h8 is not participating in the game anymore and is unlikely to join it in the nearest 6 to 10 moves. So you see, the castling is not often about king safety. It's more about coordination between pieces. Here, without castling, only a few pieces can participate in the game, while white successfully castled and used all their pieces. The second factor was, of course, the king weakness, and white effectively took the advantage of it. Okay, guys, do you have any questions? About castling or anything? Okay, so today we have just a few attendees, and as a bonus for this webinar, let's play a few games. We can play on chess.com. Just a sec. Okay, so we can... Of course, it's still possible to win even if we don't castle, but it depends on the position. So if you... sometimes you can activate the rook by opening the H file. For example, if you play H4, H5 and initiate the attack on your opponent. Is there any rule? No, when the center is closed and you think it's too risky to keep the king on one of the sides of the board, for example, this flank can be open, then you'd better allocate the king. You'd better allocate the king in the center. Actually, there is an opening. We now have a variation of French defense where it's always better to keep the king in the center. So bishop b4, e5, c5, a3, bishop take, they take, knight e7, queen g4, queen c7, rook, queen takes, rook g8, queen takes h7, then c takes d4, knight e2, d takes c3, f4, knight bc6, h4, bishop d7, h5, castle, queen d7. In this position, we should keep the king in the center. So castling queen side is too risky. Castling king side is risky as well. So here the king is safer in the center. However, the center is not fully closed. In some other lines of French defense, the king should be on f2, but that happens only when the pawn is on d4 and there is no attack. Okay, I hope I answered this question. So let's play a few games with 3+2. So this is my chess.com account, so it's 10 minutes. 10 minutes is a lot. Okay, 3+2 unrated. Knight f3. Yeah, I will accept it. Just Bennington, just wait. I'll try to comment it as well. So bishop c4. What can we do? Let's play Evans Gambit. Yeah, let's play Evans Gambit. It doesn't really matter who takes the knight or bishop. We can still play d4. Then c takes d4, chasing the bishop. Bishop e7 is not a good move in this position. And if I play queen b3, what do you do? f7 is lost now. Yes, I see. So I take. Now it's completely winning position, but what should I do? So bishop h5 doesn't make much sense. D5, no, let's just bishop b2 maybe. Play bishop b2. Knight h6. However, knight h6 is possible. I'd better castle, I think. Bishop f6. Oh, let's castle first. The bishop is trapped. If knight a5, I play queen a4. Knight a5, I can also take on f6 actually. No, it's a winning position. So you see, black didn't castle. This is how I took the advantage of it, by playing bishop f7. Okay, so bishop knight d4 looks pretty good, but that shouldn't work. Queen c4, putting more pressure on this knight. Okay, so what should I do? I was intending to play bishop g6, but can't do it. Bishop a3 check. So knight blocks on e7 then. Knight g3. Let's just develop our pieces. Well, black is also low on time. Knight d5 is one of my intentions. Let's do it. So the idea is to develop the rook from the side. I believe knight f5 should be played. in this position to protect on e7. No, it's a blunder. Okay, let's just take. Checkmate. Okay, thanks for the game. Oh, where is Bennington? Oh, come on, guys, please send me a challenge. It should be 3+2 unrated. I'm waiting for Benningtons to cool. Let me check. Yeah, okay. I'll check. 3+2 unrated play. Oh, okay, here it is. Oh, I'm playing without several pieces. How is it possible? Yeah, it's weird. I can't. I want these pieces back. Let's try to chase this knight. Trade. With the intention of playing f4. Okay, I expected this move. So my knight is now passive. So what can I play? Knight d2 doesn't make sense. Let's play 4. Queen e6 offering a trade. Queen takes e4. I'm trying to activate my knight. Should I play f5? Should I take? Let's Queen d7 is a good move actually. Let's take. Maybe knight c4 was a better move, but who cares? I want to play h7. Let's take. Check. Okay, thank you for the game, but I think it was unfair to play to play with a handicap. I was without a rook, knight, and a pawn. Okay, who else? Okay, I only accept unrated games. Marcel? So I want to take the advantage of this pin on c3. That's why I played it. Knight f6. Bishop d3, d5, of course. So with d5 I add extra pressure. If e takes d5, I'll take with my knight. If not, then I just gain the pawn on e4. No, e5 I take with my queen. What's the idea? Okay, so I expect bishop f4 coming. No, let's do this move. Bishop d7. I'm not sure if it's a good move, but this is how I defend against bishop b5 check in this variation. Bishop f4, queen takes d4, bishop b5, a discovery check. I mean a discovered attack. Now bishop b5 won't be a check. I believe the best thing that black can do here, or white can do here, is just playing f4 with the pawn. Knight f3 looks good. Let's try queen h5. Queen c7 was more natural, but okay. Let's take and castle. No, my position is winning, but I shouldn't hurry. So the pawn is hanging. I don't want to play e4. That's the problem. Looks like I have to. I mean, I have to play this move. Uh-huh. Okay. Rook a2. Look at this. Oh my god, I block. Any move is winning in this position. Oh. Just didn't realize that I'm already in time trouble. This is a good move. So here either castle or h4. Don't remember exactly. Okay, let's try h4. g5. Let's castle first. So my plan is to play a 4 a5 in this position. 4. Queen should go back. Or maybe not. Okay, f6. Takes g6, knight f4, and knight c5. Okay, let's do this move first. So if I take king to h7, and what can I do after that? King should go to h7, otherwise I play queen d2. Oh. And if I do this, okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, let's finish for today. Thank you for the games. See you next Sunday on my next webinar. I believe there will be more attendees. So thank you for watching.